Hello, guys. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to my podcast. And in this podcast episode, I'm going to I'm going to welcome my guest. His name is Tim, and he's a director and owner of BWC Films. And he's producing and directing his own films, and he's got some interesting projects that we will talk about today. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. We've got some interesting things to cover, so we will talk about war movies, westerns, funny stories from the filming, involving drinking, and is it good to drink on set, which is actually never allowed. But there's exception, of course. And a Star Citizen game. And what I want you to do pretty much is to go and follow Tim and his social media. So basically, BWC Films on social media and YouTube channel, and definitely go and watch his movies and the whole production, and also Star Citizen. Check it out because there are more episodes coming. And subscribe and follow BWC Films. And I'm definitely in, it's really, when you just have a look at it, it's really great stuff, as they say, great stuff. So I want to welcome Tim. Hello. And please, let's just start this and kick this off. So let us know and tell us more about BWC Films. How did this came about? And how did you start it all?
So, in about 2002, I founded a gaming organization with some good friends of mine, and we called it Black Widow Company. So the initials originally stood for BWC as the gaming organization, but we were doing, I was doing machinima films in video games like PlanetSide and Battlefield 2. And I was with this group of gamers for years and years. And in about 2007, we decided that we wanted to start playing competitive paintball. And over the years, we'd acquired a number of awards. Some of our players were earning most feared opponent, and we as a group were earning most valuable team. And it got to be where we kind of got bored with, we still had fun going out and playing the games, but after a while, we were like, well, we're going to show up and we're going to win most valuable team, most likely. So we started looking for other things to do, and we decided that we wanted to play this airsoft scenario that was taking place in England. And it was this zombie scenario, zombie apocalypse. And it took place in this, on this English estate where the entire town would come out and participate, where they would basically be role players, or they would provide support on the back end. The town constables came out to give some sort of safety briefing on the airsoft, and it was very involved. And we wanted to send 10 players to go participate in this event. And we were looking at ways to try to fund it so that we all didn't have to pay out of pocket, because that's what we do. So I came across Kickstarter, and Kickstarters had this thing where you could fund, filmmaking adventures. So I started reading through the Kickstarter rules, and there was something in there about funding your own vacations. And I kind of felt bad, and I was like, let's not do this, because this is kind of breaking the rules. And I didn't want to get in trouble. I had no idea what the penalties were. Turns out there aren't any. So what we ended up doing was we were going to turn it into a movie. We're like, let's film like a documentary, or turn it into we'll film the whole thing and make this into a movie. And that was kind of the way that we justified that we're going to crowdfund. So we started the campaign, and I ended up being the only one doing any work. So I wrote this script, and I found props and costumes and things like that. And I kind of got a little out of sorts because I was the only one doing any work. And then as it got closer to the time we were supposed to depart, and we're talking about making plane reservations. Suddenly, the number of people dwindled from 10 to 2, and um, we just kind of stopped planning to go to England and play airsoft. So I just decided, well, we've raised this money, we successfully crowdfunded, so let's just actually shoot a movie here in the States where we were living. Most of us were living in the Washington, D.C. area. So we changed BWC to Bravo Whiskey Charlie Films because a lot of the people in the group were veterans. So we just decided to use military phonetics. So we did it that way, and we made this zombie movie, and it was not great. I'll own it. I had no idea how to make a movie. We just figured we'd get a camera and do things, and it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't good either. So that was my first foray into live action filmmaking since I'd been like 18, when I was running around with like a camcorder doing stupid stunts and things. And then after that experience, I decided I never wanted to make another film again. And then I moved to Atlanta and got sucked into the film community here with another group of veterans that I'd kind of met through some Facebook group. They were asking if anybody had like props that they could borrow. And so I said, yeah, I'll lend you some. And then they figured out that I had a military background, and I got invited to be on the cast. And that's kind of how I got sucked back into film. But I never wanted to work with anyone else. I always wanted to do my own projects, like add all these ideas that I wanted to do. And other people would ask me if I could help produce their films or whatever. And I tried it a couple of times, but just the people that I ended up working with over and over again didn't have the same work ethic as me, and they never ended up making any films. And I wanted to do my own projects, and I couldn't focus on that whilst I was helping other people. So I just decided to do my own thing. So I do business as Bravo Whiskey Charlie Films, and I make whatever I want. So that's kind of how I got into film.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, finding people with good work ethic is really a key, because, and especially with filmmaking, long hours, a lot of stress, and there are many times when people just say like, okay, I'm leaving, like that's not for me. So yeah, sometimes it's good like just to do it yourself. But of course you need a team if you want to produce bigger film. So yeah, like I wanted to dive in pretty much like into the army experience, because that's like one of your films, The Cost of Living. It's just like, it's really great. Like
Thank you.
I watched it like every minute of it, and I was really impressed, and I think more people should see that. So
I agree.
yeah, so I'm just going to like share it everywhere, and I will ask people to watch that, because it has a strong message and it's so true. So I just want to like talk a little bit about it, because I'm very curious on the idea and how you basically approached this subject, because it's very yeah, I think it's very personal. So if you can tell your own experience, how much of yourself is in that movie.
When I went off onto my own and took kind of BWC Films to do my own thing, the first couple of things that I did were like these nerdy fan film projects, and I ended up meeting a lot of veterans in the Atlanta film industry, just because that was, I don't know if I attracted those types of people or if there just happens to be a lot of veterans that were working in film. A lot of the people in Atlanta work background or minor parts for big projects like The Walking Dead, Marvel movies, etc. So they don't really get a lot of speaking roles. So they're very hungry for those types of roles so that they can build their reels. So one of the first things that I wanted to do was a Western because it was kind of a bonding experience with my dad. He introduced me to the Western genre, and I wanted to make something that I knew he would watch because my dad and I are not alike at all. He's very conservative, religious type. He's a Methodist minister, so he doesn't watch a lot of things with a lot of profanity. And this was something that I felt that I could do. So I started working on the Western. That was the first thing I did. And I realized that there were a lot of subjects that could be included in that genre that hadn't really been tackled before. And one of those was, how did people in that era handle PTSD? But before I went to do that, I wanted to kind of do something with my genre so I could kind of get, I know PTSD, and I know people that have PTSD. And so those experiences for us were very real. So I decided, whilst I was filming The Bounty Hunter, which was the Western, to start working on this Afghanistan project. And that originally came about when I was helping another guy make his film, and it was a miserable experience. But I'd written a scene for him for that film because he didn't have a lot of action in it. And everybody on the cast wanted to see where this was a movie about these soldiers, but you never saw them doing any soldierly things. It was just kind of their personal drama. So they wanted to kind of do that, but he had never been in combat. So I said, I'll write the scene for you. So we never ended up using it. So I took that and I transferred it over to The Cost of Living. And I shot the scene in this park that kind of resembles Afghanistan. It's in southern Georgia in this weird canyon, like red clay. And I figured it was close enough because I can't afford to fly everybody to Canada.
It was very believable, I must say. I was wondering, where did you film that? Yeah.
So we, one of the ways that I cut down on costs was I asked all my friends, hey, listen, I'm looking for uniforms and gear and things like that. And I got a lot of people that they volunteered their own equipment. I got like boxes and boxes of gear or things that I just acquired from other projects or that I purchased myself. And then I realized that there were a lot of people that wanted to see this project happen in our little indie film community. So a lot of them were veterans, and who knows the material better about, you can take a good actor that's never done that type of thing before, and you can put them in the costume with the props, but can they, you have to spend a lot of time trying to train them how to walk the walk and talk the talk, make it look legitimately believable. Or you find veterans who preferably can act, and you put them in the exact same situation. So we held casting calls, and there were a lot of really good people that submitted for it, but they didn't have the type of background, and we didn't want to spend months, teaching them or spend lots of extra hours on set. No, you got to walk this way. No, this is how you talk. This is how you carry yourself. And there were a lot of Afghanistan and Iraq veterans who came out that were really good and really believable. So we went with them as just a matter of choice, but also because I had rebranded BWC Films into a veteran-owned organization with an emphasis on putting veterans in front of the camera and behind the camera, provided that they had the requisite talent and skills, because you can only take you can't really teach everyone to act. Some people are naturals and other people need coaching, and then some people like me are just terrible at it. So over 80% of the people on the cast and the crew of The Cost of Living are veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan. And there was one other guy who's a veteran, but he was peacetime. Actually, two, sorry. One got out right before 9/11. And then the other people were more or less from military families or had ties to our community through friends and loved ones. So the bulk of the people understood the gravity of what we were trying to do. And I didn't want to make it where it was just straight up good guys versus bad guys for the action sequences. And I didn't want our I'll call them the Taliban, because I don't want to call them bad guys, because a lot of the people that we encountered in Afghanistan, that was just the life that they knew. And to them, we were just another group of invaders like the Soviets before us. And so I wanted to kind of play on that element where not everything is cut and dry. So yes, we're there to do a job. And obviously the United States went there with the intention of taking out bin Laden. But somewhere along the way, things kind of changed. But also, it wasn't just these terrorists that we're fighting. We're also fighting these people that live there that just see a bunch of people with guns coming into their villages, and they don't like that. I mean, we would do the same thing if it happened in our town, ideally. So then I wanted to take a look at the things that happen after you get back. I'm a veteran of the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and prior to, I actually enlisted when the Balkan conflict was starting to kick off. So I spent time there, and then as a civilian, I got out and did conflict resolutions stuff in Africa. So I've seen the way that people, basically the worst of humanity and what human beings can do to each other, but I've also seen the very best of what we can accomplish by ourselves or as groups. Just extraordinary heroism under fire. There's just all kinds of things I never thought I would see before that you only hear about or read about in movies. Or, you know, if you're a nerd like me that likes military history and reading about all these brave men and women that fought in like World War II and World War I. And I wanted to show that, but I also wanted to tackle the issues that we face when we come back and do it believably, because every single Hollywood movie that I've ever seen on the subject, everybody is an alcoholic. They self-medicate with booze or pills. Some of them beat their spouse. Some of them cheat on their spouse, or they've been cheated on. Some people commit suicide. It's not homogenous like that. It's a shared experience going through battle, but everybody reacts differently. My brother is a Marine, and he's more or less fine. Another guy on the cast, he came back and, you know, he was fine too. And then another guy was just, he didn't like crowds. Loud noises bothered him. So there's just a wide range of things. And, you know, it's a diverse set of experiences that we all have. And I wanted to show that. But before I could finish making the film, I had to do basically like a proof of concept. So what you've actually seen is only a part of the story, but I hit a wall where I couldn't film anymore because one of the actors who's in the cast, Derek Russo, has kind of made it big. He's been in shows like Karate Kid, Cobra Kai. He's been in The Mule with Clint Eastwood. He shares a scene with Clint Eastwood, and he's been in a bunch of other things. I think the Mayans and whatnot. He's the really, really huge guy, like
Wow.
the big swole guy. That's Derek Russo. So he's a SAG actor, and this was a non-SAG project, so he can't actually work with us until we get SAG, and that also means funding because the guy's been in movies with Clint Eastwood, so you got to pay him. So there's a scene with him that we haven't filmed yet, and then there's a scene with the sole female who's in the group, portrayed by a woman who now lives in California. So we have to fly her back. So basically, we've hit a point where we have to figure out how to either finish the film or leave it alone as is, which I'm perfectly happy to do. But I think there's a lot more to that story that I want to tell. So eventually, I want to try to finish it. I just have to figure out how to make people give me money, or how to make them want to give me money, I guess would be a better way to say that.
Yeah, I think for these kind of projects, as I mentioned before, like I like to spread the word as well, because I think we should all see that, and I would like to see continuation of that as well. So yeah, I liked it was very raw and rough, as it is in reality, I believe. So I was really like, okay, like, I've never seen such a thing, only in the movies, but this felt very real, I must say. Um, and I can ask you, so I'm very curious about this. Um, these were not professional actors, as you said. So when you did very intense scenes, which bring a lot of emotions, was that difficult for them? Because a professional actor knows how to handle these emotions. But for them, and actually it's something that, you know, they know very well. So how difficult was to film this?
Um, there are actually a couple of professional working actors who were part of this, but they're also veterans. The guy who's my assistant director, who also played Rick Coburn, one of the special forces guys, he's a professional working actor. So he's actually a really good actor, but he and I kind of live on the same property together, so we spent a lot of time talking about the project. So he understood the character that he was embodying is actually an homage to my mentor who committed suicide after coming back from Iraq. Um, and before I even actually used that character, I reached out to his children who I'm friends with. And I said, listen, I'm making this movie and I wanted to put a character in there about your dad. And obviously it's going to turn out the way that it turns out, but I wanted to let you know in advance that this was a thing and do I have your blessing for it? So I did. So then I shared his story with Rock, who's the actor. Another guy is a professional working actor that is also a veteran, so he understood the material as well. The other guys, basically, I just said, listen, this is the story. We're all familiar with it. We've all done it in some degree or another. So we're just going to go out there and do the things. You learn your lines. That's all we got to do. The scene that you've seen with the gentleman in the truck who gets intoxicated, he knew what was expected of him, but he wasn't sure how to get himself there. So what I ended up doing was we shot it in a liquor store parking lot. And to kind of loosen up, I realized that this is a fundamental rule of filmmaking is not to drink on set, but we actually got a little drunk to kind of get things loose. And then I parked a car right next to the truck and I plugged in the Sarah McLachlan song, Arms of an Angel. And we just listened to that on repeat until we started sobbing. So I got him to that point by basically the Sarah McLachlan song and some booze. And once he hit that point, he thought about all the things. I asked him what was his what was going through his mind when he was, once the tears started to flow. And he said he just started thinking about all the friends that he'd lost as well. So that's how we did that. And then there's a scene with Rick, the one of the special forces guys, that we've shot most of that footage. There's a couple other things that I still have to shoot. I'm just kind of working around scheduling at the moment. And I don't want to actually give it away because this character, the scene is shot, but nobody's seen it other than a couple of the cast members. But dealing with that, he was such a trooper about it. We just did it. But when I watched it, I had to actually turn around and look away because it got me all choked up. And so my cameraman actually directed the rest of the scene because he looked at me to see what my reaction was, and I'm facing the other way, crying and like shaking and like So that's how we kind of did the scenes for those, because it was simultaneously cathartic to deal with it, but also at the same time, for me personally, it evoked a lot of emotions. So, and the other cast members too. And then when we watched it, like we had a screening, all of us that had participated in the filming were kind of like, this is actually really good. Except me, I was like, oh, it's terrible. I hate it. because I'm my own worst critic. So
Yeah, that's the usual stuff, like everybody is like this, especially in this business. But yeah, you should take their opinion and also mine. It's really great. So well done, and well done to everybody working on the project, despite sharing the emotions with us and kind of like make us feel what you feel. And yeah, I mean, it's also subjects that I'm very interested in. So I watch a lot of war movies, not sure why, but I'm fascinated by that, especially psychologically. So yeah, thank you so much for making this movie actually film. And I'm looking forward to next part of that or more. And yeah, so I have another question, but you already answered that because I wanted to ask, do you act in your films too? But you said you're a terrible actor. So where's the truth?
I very specifically avoid being in films unless somebody like asks me and they make me owe them a favor.
So did you try it? You did.
I did, yes. So the very first movie that I did, I had so many issues casting the character. I had 3 separate actors, and just one by like one, he was good for it. He came out for the table reading, and then after that, he got arrested and couldn't make any of the shoots. So he recast, and then that person had a wife who did not want him kissing another woman, so he basically had to quit. And then another guy came and he shot one scene, and then he basically decided that he hated acting and he didn't want to do it. So I said, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to do it myself. So I did it, and I hated it because I was trying to direct and be on the camera be in front of the camera and behind the camera. I didn't like it. I didn't think that I was good. I didn't think that I was funny, or I just did a terrible job of it. So I'll do a bit of voiceover for my machinima projects when there's something that needs to be like a quick gap that needs to be filled in. Like, hey, I need a voice for this thing here. I'll do that with no problem because I'm actually a little good at impersonations. But that's it. Like, I don't want to act. I don't want to be an actor. I don't think that I'm good. I think I'm terrible. I don't think I'm funny either, but apparently other people think that the things that I write are funny. So I'm not really sure what to believe. Maybe they're just humoring me. I don't know. But no, I don't act. I don't want to be an actor. You'd have to throw me a lot of money, and then I'd be like, I'm just going to be myself. And if that's not good enough, well, I'm not giving this money back.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you're just very tough critic and maybe you're actually good, but yeah, I think we should do what we love doing and what we feel comfortable doing. So if you feel comfortable behind the camera, that's what you should do, so that's what I believe. And so my next question is pretty much maybe answered, but anyway, I'm just gonna ask, which film needed the biggest production and how do you get funding? So we kind of touched on that. So what's the cost of living, the biggest production that you've done so far?
The cost of living was actually pretty easy. We basically rented a couple of locations, or we did guerrilla filming. Like the park that we were in, essentially, I just planned an overnight camping trip. And most of my actors came out, and they were good troopers about it. We pitched tents, and we had a big fire. I paid a guy to be our chef, and he also was our sound guy. So he cooked this extraordinary meal. It was really delicious. He made dessert and everything. We brought drinks like water and like juice, and then also I had for the after thing. And then we just basically hiked into the park from the back entrance where nobody could see us, and we filmed. But somewhere along the way, a park ranger stumbled upon us and was like, "What are you guys doing out here?" And we're walking around in like military uniforms. There's guys dressed as Taliban insurgents with AK-47s, and we're like, "We're filming a movie." He's like, "Oh, okay, cool. I'll just hang out here and make sure that nobody." He's like, "What are you guys filming?" So we told him, and he was a veteran too. He was a Marine from the Vietnam era, and he's like, "I'm just gonna hang out here and make sure that nobody bothers you." So he stuck around and was there, and people would come across, and he's like, "It's okay, keep on going." But that was actually not, because I had a lot of props that I either acquired from other projects or people like left on sets that I was on, or I just bought them. They're basically, a lot of the props were airsoft, and they're like $20 or $30 for a little spring-loaded thing. So that was not really expensive. The one that was cost us the most money was the Western film that we did, The Bounty Hunter, because we had to build sets or rent locations. Like we rented a plantation for one of the scenes. And that's another one where we would camp out on site and do a lot of filming there, but we had permission those times. But with that one, like one of my pet peeves is anachronisms, where you see something in the film and you're like, that's not accurate because that didn't exist at that point in time. So we set it in 1870. So these were Civil War veterans for the most part, were the characters. And so I wanted to so we got like a lot of rifles and pistols that were used in the Civil War or shortly thereafter. So that cost a lot of money, plus getting authentic looking costumes. That was basically the most expensive thing that we've ever done. But all of my films are actually self-funded. I make this joke where like I'll say that I quit drinking for a month and then I film one or two scenes, and that's more or less correct. But on occasion we'll crowdfund. Like for example, there's a thing that we want to do with a stagecoach robbery, which it wasn't even part of the original script, but somebody was like, we should have a stagecoach robbery. And I was like, well, let's do it. The only problem is there's no stagecoaches in existence anymore, so we haven't figured out how to do it, except that we found a place on the other side of the country in New Mexico that has a stagecoach. So our next step is going to be to try to crowdfund that scene and see if we can make that happen, because the actor who's in that scene has stage 4 cancer, and we're trying to finish this film before anything untoward should happen. So we're kind of on a timeline with that. So that was his wish, was like, he's like, I want to, everything else I've done in the film is great, but I want to be in the stagecoach robbery. So we have to figure out how to make that happen. So that's just going to be more expenses to tack on to this Western that we're still trying to finish. We got sidetracked by COVID. It really shut the industry down here in Atlanta. So we've just been kind of waiting for things to clear out. Now that vaccines are becoming widespread, we're going to start getting back to work. So we should hopefully finish that as well here, hopefully this year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. I saw some teasers on the YouTube channel. Yeah, looking very good. Do you have any funny stories from filming, except for getting drunk?
Those are my best stories, though.
No, except for getting drunk that one time. If you have another time, yeah, bring it.
I had reached out to a bunch of my cast members to find out what they thought were the funniest moments, and I'm still waiting on them to reply. So I don't have a good answer for this. We always have fun on set, and I'm kind of embarrassed that we can't think of anything at the moment.
Then yeah, so yeah, if you have too much fun, sometimes it's actually hard to remember.
We filmed for the Western. We filmed this scene in North Carolina. This really beautiful mill that sits alongside of a creek, and it's very green in North Carolina at that time because it was the spring. So it was so green that we actually, when we looked at the film later, we had to kind of dial it back and like do a lot of color correction to make it look like it wasn't it looked like the Wizard of Oz. It was insane how green it was. But in the middle of filming, it just immediately out of nowhere started pouring rain, and it was raining so hard that the mill that we were at has this tin roof, and we couldn't get anything done because the roof leaked and people were getting wet, but also it was so loud when it was hitting, the raindrops are hitting this tin, that we couldn't hear anything. So people were like shouting the lines, and we just decided to just sit and wait. And we're sitting around under this leaky porch telling ghost stories, and it was just the weirdest surrealist experience. And we had horses there, and the horses were getting wet and they were unhappy. And then there's a guy who's in the film. His name is Eric Morris. He's a very talented actor. He's a working actor as well, and he plays the character Gentleman Johnny in the film. And he's this wiry, slender Air Force veteran. He's very Southern. He's got a strong Southern accent, and he kind of turned it up to do, like, he's hamming it up a little bit for the camera, because when he talks normally you can hear his accent, but he's not as strong as it was for this. But he has these incredible facial gestures that he just will randomly bust out, like these funny faces. And we're filming a scene where they're one of the characters is wounded, and so they cut the character's shirt open because they've been shot in the stomach or the side, and they discover that the character is a woman. It was supposed to be, you couldn't really tell, but then we realized in shooting it that everybody could actually tell, because there was like, who's the actress? And I was like, I'm not going to be able to get away with that. But so he's like, well, what's my reaction supposed to be? He's like, because I can tell that this is a woman. And I was like, yes, but your character can't, because they were wearing like a disguise, like they had a fake mustache and everything. It was supposed to be comical. So he's like, okay, well, I'll roll with it. So they cut the character's shirt opens, and he just does this weird bug eye. He's like, oh my Lord, kind of thing. And I laughed for like 5 minutes straight. I couldn't, anytime I tried to like straighten myself out, like I would stare at a tree and like, okay, gotta get serious. And I would turn around and I would look at him, and he'd be like, I just would lose it. So that's the thing is they'll do to distract me. We were filming this gunfight at this place where we built a Western town set out of some existing structures. So I got everybody lined up, and they're going to do like this classic showdown with the good guys on one side, the bad guys on the other, and everybody's got their weapons and whatnot. And we'd done the range safety, because some of the weapons fire blanks and others were just inert props. So we treated all of them like they were loaded with blanks. So everybody got instructions on how to handle it. We did the safety. It was very somber and surreal or serious, where we wanted them to treat them like they're blanks, but we still want them to treat them with respect, but also for safety and liability purposes. So everything is good to go. We're about to start. And unbeknownst to me, they planned in the middle of the night. Again, we were drinking the night before the shoot. They planned to do this thing. So I called action, and nobody's moving. And I'm kind of like, what's going on here? And suddenly one side started shouting, run away, like Monty Python. And they just completely ran away. And I'm standing there like, what's going on? So they like to prank me on set, because I get so engrossed in the details that they realize that they can get one over on me.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun. So yeah, that's one of the great parts of filming, to have a lot of fun on the set with other people. Okay, so we've got 3 more questions, and just to kind of like going back to the army just a little bit on that. So is there anything that helped you in filming career that you've learned in the army? And I believe like it has something to do with the work ethic and discipline, maybe. So if you can enlighten me more.
my military career was pretty much infantry or military intelligence. So I didn't do any artsy things in the military. Like there are specialities where you can like be a camera person, like combat cameraman, or work audio visual for like public affairs and things like that. I didn't do any of that. So the only real things I picked up from the military, which I think have helped me with my career or aspiring film career, is just the work ethic, the responsibility, the reliability, having a never quit attitude. And then for the cost of living and the bounty hunter, being able to use props and things like that. I actually learned how to ride horses in the military in Afghanistan. So I kind of had that to fall back on with the Western genre. But other than that, the cost of living is basically a military story. And a lot of those were my experiences or experiences from people who were on the cast and crew. So that's really probably the only thing, was having a real life background in that to make that film was probably the only real set of skills besides the work ethic and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Which is very important. So, yeah. And yeah, so I wanted to ask because I saw everything on your YouTube channel, and there is something recently, and it's called Star Citizen Nocturne episodes. So walk me through what is it and how. So I think you have 3 episodes or something like that out. So tell me what it is and tell me how far you want to go with that and why.
So I started making machinima in video games, which machinima, for those people that don't know, is basically you take the video game and you make them the characters of the environment. So you like you're playing a video game, like Red Dead Redemption, for example, and you make the characters if you have access to the tools to do it. So you want your character guy to go, like make him go here and then say a thing. So then you have like voiceover and whatnot. So that's what machinima is. Star Citizen is a game that's in development. It's been in development for a number of years, and it's a massively multiplayer online game. So it's a shared universe that a lot of people can get into at the same time. So that was how I got started with being interested in making films and learning how to edit things and write scripts and whatnot. So during the quarantine lockdown here in the United States, the Atlanta film industry, which is like the second or third largest in the nation, was really hit hard. All the big productions shut down because they had orders from California to do so. So all these actors were suddenly out of work, and we're all sitting around in our homes, bored to tears. And my hobby is playing video games. I used to be a video game developer, and I'm still avidly playing video games. So we realized that there was a very rich opportunity here to use the game. Like you can use your webcam and it tracks your eyes and nose and mouth and your facial expressions and whatnot. So you can make the characters talk. So what we did was we wrote this script, and it was supposed to just be like a 5-minute thing just for fun. And we did it, and people were like, the story is, these are actually kind of interesting characters. Like, what happens next? So we wrote a little more, and it became 20 minutes. And then people were like, no, you're still not done. What else is there? So it turned into like this 45-minute thing. And we decided to cut it into like 3 segments of like 15-ish minutes each, which didn't work out that way because there weren't convenient stopping points. So the first one was like 10 minutes, and then the next one was like 14, and the other one was like 24 or something to that effect. But we got all the way through this story, and they're out of work actors doing the voiceovers for a lot of the characters, and a couple of people are running around in the video game, playing the characters that are on the screen. And it's, there's spaceships and guns and aliens and all kinds of crazy things. but we started telling this story, and then people were like, well, what happens after this when it's over? What happens to this character? And we're like, I don't know. So a bunch of the people on the cast decided that they wanted to write more, and they're like, can we write more? Okay, how long is this lockdown going to last? We have no idea. So we've ended up writing about 13 episodes. We've just finished filming the fourth one, and I actually just today put a trailer online. I haven't released it yet, so I have the link, and I can probably email that to you if you want to include it and get like the debut. What do they call that? There's a word for it. I don't know what it is anymore.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
the first crack at showing it, like sneak preview or something. Exclusive.
Yeah.
That's the word, exclusive.
Exclusive.
So we cut this trailer from footage that we filmed that kind of teases what's going to continue happening. We're about to start filming the 5th episode, and I've just gone through and QC'd the 6th, 7th, and 8th scripts. But what we discovered was that the 4th episode is like 34 minutes long. So we're just going to cut it in half and make that episodes 4 and 5. And then what was the 5th episode is now going to be episodes 6 and 7. So that put us at like 8, 9, and 10. And then there's the writing team is actually hard at work on trying to reach a conclusion with the storyline that they want to go to. And that's basically going to be our first season. And we've no idea what's going to happen after that. We might just quit. But it's basically it's just gamers making a movie or a web series out of this video game that we all like playing. A couple of the people who do voiceovers have started helping us film it, and they're really involved. Like, we've got our own Discord server for just writing stories and filming and organizing, and it's kept all of us sane during the quarantine. So we've really enjoyed this alternative form of filmmaking, and it also helps me. I've learned some editing things, and I've learned how to do special effects, because there are things in the video game that you can't actually do in the video game, but we wanted them in the story, so we had to get creative with learning 3D modeling and cheating shots and adding real life special effects. Like, there are little Easter eggs all over the film, like these nerdy references to science fiction properties, and we referenced like a couple of lines in Star Wars, like "I've got a bad feeling about this" is in there 1 or 2 times, and then there's like a scene where they're playing a video game in the video game. It's like an arcade game, and the machine right next to it is busted, but there's no sign on the thing that says this machine's out of order. So what I ended up doing was, on the wall back there, I took a piece of paper and wrote a sign and hung it on there with like some painter's tape, and then took a picture of it on my cell phone and put that into the film. Like, it's sitting on the monitor of the video game, and it says like, the reason why the machine is out of order is because somebody punched the screen because it owed them money or something like that. So like, we just did all these weird things that I've seen a lot of people that made cinematics within Star Citizen, and some of them are really good, and some of them are not as good as what I think we've been doing. But nobody's doing what we're doing. Like, we have a cohesive storyline that just appeared out of nowhere. Like, these characters basically write themselves, and I've got this team of 3 other writers, well, 3 full-time, and then a couple people who throw ideas here and there. But it's kept all of us going. In the quarantine with the lockdowns, we're communicating and socializing instead of like sitting around feeling sorry about not having jobs, or if that's the case for some of them. And I think one of the developers from the game actually has taken notice, and they sent us a message and said, we'd like to talk to you about one of you joining our staff or whatever, but then we'd have to move back to the UK, and not going to do that. So no offense, it's just, this is where our home is. So
Of course.
it's gotten a little bit of a following. So there are people that play this video game that are diehard fans that want to watch as much content as they can about the game, because it's still in development, so not everything is in yet. And that's another thing that we've encountered is all these things that they want to do with the game but haven't done yet. And we've kind of figured out how to work around that to tell a story, like docking your spaceship to a space station didn't exist, and we did it anyway. Like, we just drove up alongside of it, and I took some 3D artwork and made it look like they were doing it, whatever. But all these people that like the game have this, some of them have started following us on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and whatnot. So, and now they're like, oh, you're an actual film company. I mean, sort of, yes, but sort of not really. Like, we don't make any money off of it yet. But they're introduced to, the Western and the cost of living, and they're eager to see what other projects that we're going to do. And maybe one day I'll get back to making my Star Wars fan film.
Aha. So that's the future plan.
We had done, there's another video game, Star Wars The Old Republic, that we filmed a fan film on that, because a lot of the people in the Atlanta area go to conventions like Dragon Con and things like that. So there's some Star Wars people that, and I did it originally because I wanted to learn how they did the lightsaber things. And so there's a guy who's actually a Royal Marine who lives in this area, who's also like a fencing champion. So he taught some of our cast members how to actually look like they knew what they're doing with the lightsabers. And then I learned how to make the little glowing effect on the little sword there. So those were all things that I've done to kind of increase my skill sets. But yeah, that everybody does Star Wars fan films at some point in their career.
Yeah, I mean, it looks amazing. The Star Citizen, when I had a look at it on YouTube, I was like, wow, like the visuals and everything, and also the story. It's so cool. I think, yeah, I'm really glad that you have more episodes coming, because I think this can really take off, in my opinion. So yeah, and just on that note, like, how long it takes to produce one episode of Star Citizen?
I don't actually know, because the very first 3 episodes were originally just one large episode that we ended up cutting into 3 different parts that are not even the same length. And that took us about a year to do.
Mm-hmm.
We started releasing, I think the first one we released it in September, and then the next one was like December, and then another one we finally finished in March. A lot of it just has to do with the availability of people. We bit off more than we could chew and wrote these scenes for like 10, 15 people, and we realized that we couldn't actually do that. So we had to do a lot of creative shot angles, and we had asked a bunch of groups that play together, in other games they're called like organization or guilds or something like that. In Star Citizen, the gamer group is called an organization. So we had approached all these different groups and said, hey, can you guys have like 10 people that play online at the same time, and people would come out and help us shoot a scene or whatever, or we'd be in the game and be like, hey, we need like a bunch of people to show up for this thing that we're filming. So people would just show up and are like, hey, what do you need? Like, what do I need to wear? What kind of ship do you need, or whatever? So with episode 4, we intentionally wrote it as a smaller piece with only like 2 or 3 main characters and a couple of supporting characters. And then we had like one scene where there was another group that was attacking them that had like 10 people. So that was the only time we had to worry about that. So that one took us about a month and a half to film. And we started working on it in mid-March, and now it's mid-May. So realistically, probably 2 to 3 months per episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And you have a lot of them already in advance. Awesome.
Yes.
That's actually all my questions. So I want to thank you so much for your time. And thank you so much for being here, sharing everything that you just said. And I will make sure I will promote everything that you do because I love it. So thank you so much for being here and taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you. That means a lot to me that somebody out there besides my wife likes my work. Well,
I'm
you're
sure there are
married. You have
more
to say
people.
that to me.
I'm sure there are many, many more people that do and will do as well in the future. So it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. And I wish you have a nice day or evening. I'm not sure. Have a nice day.
It is late afternoon here.
So this wraps up our podcast episode for today. And I have some special interviews planned in the future. And actually, I'm filming one tomorrow. And it's going to be very, very interesting. Let me tell you. So I'm going more into the actors and directors. But I have some surprises as well. So don't forget to tune in. Listen to the podcast, the previous episodes, and don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or basically anywhere. Also on here on YouTube channel. Please do subscribe and don't miss anything. So I'm interviewing people, directors, filmmakers, actors from all over the world to share experience, skills, knowledge, and kind of like inspire each other and motivate each other. And yeah, connect with other people around the world. So don't forget to subscribe on my podcast and on this channel. And I will see you in the next episode. Take care.